Hello everybody and welcome back to the fourth part of this video series where we are creating an alarm application, okay? An alarm web application using the MERN stack, which include MongoDB, Express, React, and Node.js. So in the previous episode, what we have done is we talked a bit about using MongoDB database in our application using models and schemas. So as promised, in this video we're gonna speak a bit about routing. Routing is basically defining where our resources will be located and where users can access them. So in the server app, in the main app here, we have some basic routes, okay? One route actually, server.get, and using this route here. So we have been using this to test everything so far, but now we're just going to completely get rid of it. And let's just save. And now if we go to, let's just, after the server has restarted, if you go to the route we've been testing so far, and if we go to send, there will be nothing. There will be an error. That's because we have no routes in our application. Thus we can't do anything. We can't send and receive data. Okay, so what we need to do is create routes for our data. As you can see, it says error cannot get / meaning there is no route for this in our application. Now anyway, so let me just take this and put it a bit low. Now what we want to do is we want to go to our backends folder and create a new folder. We're going to call that folder routes, okay? And in the routes folder we need to create a router for our resources. Now the one resource that we are currently working with is called our alarm resource, right? So it was alarm model for our models and schemas, but now for our routes it should be known as alarm routes. And one thing to note here is that we are also going to create a user route and a user model when we are going to work with authentication. Okay, so authentication is covered in this course. But for now, let's just create a route for our alarms. So let's say alarm routes, okay, then .js. By the way, the reason we are separating stuff like this in separate folders is because we are using the MVC architecture to build an API, a RESTful API. Now, if those terms are new to you, don't worry, I'll explain them in a concept video in the future. But for now, just Google it. There are many resources where you can learn what this means, okay? So to start with here, I'm going to import Express, right? So I'm going to say const express equals require, okay? And let's just say Express. Now, after we get Express, what we want to do is we want to create our router. So we want to say const router equals Express. Then from this, we want to take router, the capital R. Then just make a method and let's end here. Okay, now we want to export this router because this is what will you be using in the server.js. Okay, so just say actually we can, let's just come here and say module exports and you can just say router to export the router. Now we can come here in our server and we can first let's import it. So const alarm routes equals require, then // we go into routes, and from that we take the alarm routes. Okay, let's just close that off, and in order to use it we want to apply it as a middleware. And as you might have noticed we are using a middleware right here, and what we want to do is we want to use our custom routes with this middleware. So to use it as a middleware, simple, just say server dot use. Okay, it's the same, and first we want to pass it where should we use it, and I'm going to say /API and the router to use there. So just say alarm routes. Let's close it. Okay, let me explain this. We are doing what we are doing is we want to use these each router. We will make them right here. We haven't made them yet, but for the routers we create here, we want to come and use them inside the /API. Okay, after this, meaning we can't just do this, you gotta do /API right here, then / to get the home. And why are we doing this? It's because we are using we are creating a RESTful API, and this is generally the structure that we're going to be following. Okay, so we're just going to say /API and our route. So anything we come and use here, it's just going to be a subset of this. So from /API. Good. Okay, so let's create our router. Let's actually do the routing. So we want to just say we want to measure router, and we want to say dot get. Okay, so first it's a common in building a RESTful API. As first things, we want to get all the alarms. Okay, we want to get all the alarms. So we want to say on /. Okay, so /alarms actually. So when we route to this, and what this would look like in our testing unit is /API /alarms. Okay, here. When we route to this, we want to do something. Maybe we want to send files. Okay, maybe we want to display a static HTML page with dynamic data. So there are many things we can do, and I'm just gonna show you in the next video about controllers. But for now, just to test, we can say request and response, and can take this and say response.send working router. Okay, now we can come here and save this and this. Now my internet is not, I don't think so. Let's just see. Now it has working router. Perfect. Now so it's working. Our routers are working. So what we want to do is, let's just cut this off. On the next line, I want to use router dot. Then after getting getting all of the alarms, want to get a specific alarm, right? So router dot get. You can say /alarm /ID, and we want to do this. Okay, I'm gonna explain that in a bit. So what we're doing is this /ID is called a request parameter. Okay, and how can you define a request parameter is by just including this. Okay, this 2 points is signifying that when we are referring to this ID here, we are actually referring to whatever is after this. So if we say, for example, most of the time it would be the ID from the database, from the MongoDB, but for now it will be just a random string. And how can we access that? If you may say, we want to just say response.send request.params. Okay, for request parameters, then we want to say ID because we have specified it. Now let's save, and we should get this string. Okay, if we send it, cannot get alarms. Why is that? Maybe it's because so there seems to be a problem, and this is what is good with series tutorials like this, is you get to see me figure this out. Okay, so let's see, maybe we should restart our server first. So npm run dev, and yeah, okay, so it's restarted. Maybe let's send. Okay, that didn't fix it, so maybe there's has been a spelling mistake. So /alarm /d. Let's rewrite this. Maybe something I spelled something incorrectly. So we can say router dot get /alarms /id. So requests response. And first let's just console a log working. Okay, let's just save this, and if we come here and send, nothing should come, and we have that working correctly. So then let's response.send working. Let's send this, then let's send it here, working. So it's working. Perfect. Now let's try sending request.params.id, and let's just click send, and this should work. Okay, it does work. So this is what we call test-driven development, is tracing your steps back, each step, and trying to work out how the mistake came and trying to figure it out. So what actually happened is, I'm not sure, so let's just test it. So there is no difference when closing. Okay, say alarms. Okay, alarm. Okay, should have been alarms. So that's a silly mistake by my side. Anyway, it's working now. Let's take this out. Okay, so now that we have both of these GET requests, now what we want to do is we want to handle a request that that is not just for getting data, but actually manipulating it. So the easiest one we can do is router.deletes, because to delete data. Okay, so we can say /alarms / and if we do this, we are basically deleting every alarm. Okay, so we don't want that. Instead, we want to delete a specific alarm, so we want to give it an ID, and just say response, and let's take this response, let's send working deletes. Okay, so let's save it, restart the server, and let's send. Okay, again, okay, so it's just deletes, not get. So this is the good thing about Postman. You can test many different endpoints, while in Chrome, if you're using Chrome, you can only test the GET request and not the post, the put, the patch, the delete, the head, the option. You can only test the GET request. So this is one good advantage of Postman. So let's take this out. Okay, let's just remove it, and let's say another thing we can do is we can say router, as formatted a bit better, post. Okay, the post request is used to create data. So just the alarms, we don't want to give it the ID parameter, because the ID will be generated on its own by MongoDB. So we just want to create a new alarm and store it inside the alarms database. You get the way this works. Okay, everything works. We don't have to test it again and again. Then we want to say router patch. You can also do put, but I prefer using patch. And patch alarm. Patch is, by the way, is used to update. Okay, to update it. So we need a specific one to update. So the ID parameter comes in, and that's it for our routers. For our router, for our alarm routers. One thing here is this is not the best way to do it. The best way to do it is I'm going to show you right now. So the best way to do it is to do router, then we can say dot routes. Okay, what this does is it allows us to test many different endpoints, the same endpoint with different requests. For example, we have this right here, we have this, but we are routing to this multiple times, actually 2 times, right? But we are just changing the method. We are changing from get post. So instead we can do that here by saying when you are on the alarms, route, we want to be using on get, we want to be using something. Let me take on post, we want to be doing another thing, and this is basically how you do it. So what happens in this parentheses, you might ask? And in this parentheses we are just going, for example, here we can say request response, and we can say response send post. Let's say that. Then if we come here and go to the post request without any extra ID post, it's perfect, it's working perfectly. So this is how you use the route function, and most of the time I prefer using this, and you should be using this if you're serious on your application. But you might have seen, let me just delete this, we don't need it anymore. In the next episode, actually, we're gonna be talking about controllers, and we want to get all the routes, we want to get all the alarms, a specific alarm, we want to get update alarms, post, create alarms, we want to delete alarms, and in the next video we're going to be doing that. So maybe it's a 2-part video, I'm not sure, but it's going to be a bit long. So for this one, let's just finish setting up our router. So we can say router here, then come down and say dot route. Okay, here, and we can say /alarms /ID, and we can do a get requests. We can also do a patch request, and also finally a delete request. So that means we don't need to include this. So this is much cleaner and better performance overall. So we have already tested it, it works perfectly, but just be sure, we can say request response, if I can type, and response send request param id, and let's go to maybe patch, and let's just say this, and alarms /ID. Okay, what's wrong here? API /alarms. Interesting. Okay, so we did the router for delete, not patch. Sorry for that. Just yeah, it works. So let's just clear this. So in this video we have covered alarms in Node.js and Express. So not alarms, routes. Okay, so you can do routing exclusively in Node.js Actually, you don't need Express at all. You can do everything in Node.js, but it's a real pain, like a real pain. It's so inefficient, and that's why we use Express as a framework, and it is a framework, I've checked. So in the next video we're going to be working on the functionality. In this video we have successfully created our routers, and maybe you have heard the term routing many times before and you didn't understand it, as I didn't, because I was actually coming from a front end to back end development. So it's actually very simple. So thank you for watching. In the next episode I'm gonna come back with a video on controllers. Until next time, goodbye.